morning, David.
Christopher, good to see you.
And yourself?
Yeah. Keep going,
Yeah, suitably recovered from having an organist practicing for me?
Yeah, I thought we were very kind. We will be sending you the invoice for organist practice for the Loaders service last Sunday. Dear viewer, you probably wonder what Chris and I are gabbling on about. Last Sunday, the director of music in Beaminster had been invited to play at Loaders. Having said that, he's lived in Loaders for years and probably seen it as his first port of call. However, he was playing after the service at Beaminster in Loaders because they had a visit from the bishop.
Morning, Bishop Karen. Hope you enjoyed yourself.
And Christopher was trying to impress, obviously. But you know the story, dear viewer.
Yeah, but I can't impress with my singing or my playing.
That's very true. But apart from that, Mr. Nardone, Dr. Nardone, was hot-footing it to a second gig at Loaders after he'd been playing at Beaminster. So we gave him a warm-up practice time, and I think it's only fair that we should send the bill for his practice time to Loaders. If you disagree, dear viewer, do tell me. However, Bishop Karen was very impressed with the director of music from Beaminster.
Yeah, we've also got to hope that the director of music at Beaminster is not listening to this because he'll ask for his cut.
He may do. Now, the other thing about all of this is, and you've waved to Bishop Karen, is that yesterday I spied that she'd joined the other side. No, she hasn't become a Methodist, dear viewer. She was joining the Bishop of Exeter in his version of RevChat.
Oh, well, it can't have been as good as ours, even though the Bishop of Exeter created the very original.
It lasted for 5 minutes and 29 seconds, Chris. I looked at it.
Oh, that's because she's always telling us that we waffle on far too long and talk about absolute nonsense.
She often refers to us as being so erudite it needs a longer working out. There we are. So there you are, dear viewer. Bishop Karen of the Salisbury Diocese was twilighting with the Bishop of Exeter in his vlog yesterday.
And what was that called? If our dear viewer might want to go and have a look to see what they're missing,
it's just called vlog, VLOG. I presume it's I presume it's a play on words of Vicar's blog or something like that.
Well, vlog is is an acronym for video log.
Well, there we are, Chris. I never knew that. I've learned something new today.
Oh.
However, that's what it's called. Just go to the Diocese of Exeter. You'll find Bishop Mike, who's a wonderful person with social media, and has done a fantastic job down there getting himself well known. So you'll find his vlog. It lasts for 5 minutes, 29 seconds on a reading which we're not using today, Chris, because they spoke about Luke 11.
Ah. Well, we thought we'd go away from Luke 11, didn't we? Because
you did, Chris. You did.
I've always seemed to be drawn to the Hebrews reading. It's not often I go away from the Gospel, but I like the Hebrews reading because faith is something interesting to talk about. Does that mean you want me to go in to read it straight away?
Well, Chris, I think for the dear viewers' sensitivity and brain power, I think you should go into it.
So Hebrews chapter 11.
Various verses.
It's verses 1 to 3, and then verses 8 to 16.
Go for it.
Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Indeed, by faith our ancestors received approval. By faith we understand that the worlds were prepared by the word of God, so that what is seen was made from things that are not visible. By faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to set out for a place that he was to receive as an inheritance, and he set out, not knowing where he was going. By faith he stayed for a time in the land he had been promised, as in a foreign land, living in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked forward to the city that has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. By faith he received power of procreation, even though he was too old, and Sarah herself was barren, because he considered himself faithful who had promised. Therefore, from one person, and this one as good as dead, descendants were born, as many as the stars of heaven, and as the innumerable grains of sand by the seashore. All of these died in faith, without having received the promises. But from a distance they saw and greeted them. They confessed that they were strangers and foreigners on the earth. For people who speak in this way make it clear that they are seeking a homeland. If they had been thinking of the land that they had left behind, they would have had opportunity to return. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God. Indeed, he has prepared a city for them.
There you are.
There you are.
The meaning of faith.
Yep. And of course, by the time we realise that we've got faith, and it's certain it's not faith anymore.
What is it then, Chris?
Well, it's something that the minute we work out what we've got, we can't understand it. Nice and confusing.
It is.
It's because if faith was certain, and if there definitely was a God and everybody knew it, well, that wouldn't be faith. That would be knowing a fact. Faith has to do with knowing something that we're not quite sure of.
As I say,
taking it as our best understanding and interpretation of what we've seen before us and what we've learned.
Yeah, as I say at funerals regularly, faith is about hoping in something you have no ultimate proof about.
Yeah. That's just a much shorter way of saying what I just said.
It was, Chris. Yeah. Always to the point, am I, as you know. So there we are. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. I love that opening. The fact that, there is something about believing and hoping in something you haven't seen or don't know about, but believe in your heart you do have an understanding of. Because I think that for me is the relevance of faith. It's about hoping and trusting in something you have no ultimate proof about, but in your heart you deeply believe to be true and honest.
Yeah, and you know what? This is the complete opposite of my life as a design engineer and computer programmer, programming production lines.
Yeah.
Because if you ever turn up to a factory hoping your bit of software is going to work,
yeah,
it don't. It works once you've made it work.
Yeah.
And you have to think about every possibility, and you go through it, and you've got to remove any form of doubt that the software will work.
So do you turn up at the factory, though, with great hope?
You turn up with great hope, but the great hope comes in the preparation.
Well, is that not the same, perhaps, as getting or trying to understand Jesus and faith? That you have to put a lot of effort into it, a lot of time, a lot of
time and a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
But you're there and know the rules. And if you don't know the rules, you know who to phone up and ask. So when you get a problem, it's who do I ask? And my phone list of technical support people is quite long.
Mm.
And you had to ask the right person. As in, you ask, I don't know, I will say a priest. You give David a phone call if you want to ask something spiritual. But if you've got a problem medically, well, don't ask me because I ain't got a clue. If you've got a problem and you want the organ played really well, you would ask Dr. Peter Nardone, not me.
That's very true.
And so knowing who to ask to have that, and faith is not me walking into Lodus Church and hoping that I can press some little bits of white ivory, hoping a nice tune comes out, because that only happens with a lot of practice. And actually, it's quite an interesting one there. Yes, we say, because faith isn't, I don't believe necessarily in blind faith. faith, we research information, we research what we hope for, we research what's most likely, but we're never quite convinced. But we work at it, and that's why we pray.
I've got to say that brings it into the, into not full circle. It brings it to where the starting point is, because for Christians the starting point, I believe, should be a solid base in prayer, and understanding that by prayer we're developing a relationship with a God that we've not seen, but we understand. And I don't know if you heard the news on Radio 4 this morning, Chris. This is Thursday, by the way, dear viewer, if you want to tune into the Today programme. They were saying, I heard an article that the leader of our opposition in Britain has lost any faith in God. She hasn't lost any faith in Christianity, but she's lost faith in God, because she'd read the account of somebody who'd kept their daughter in prison for 24 years in a cellar. And the girl had prayed regularly every day for God to release her, and he hadn't. And so she'd lost faith in God, or belief in God, which is quite an interesting statement to make, isn't it, really?
So was it this girl that had lost faith in God, or was this
the leader of our official opposition?
Right.
But she remains strong in her Christian faith and tradition. I know. Yes, I leave you to work that one out, dear viewer, because Chris is obviously bemused. But there we are. I think I can understand what she's getting to, because how often do we pray for things and think nothing's ever happening? But then when we stop and think a few weeks or months later, you realise actually God's done what you've been asking for. You just haven't been tuned into him enough to realise he's been working with you to work out the...
Yeah, I mean, he obviously, he nearly always answers prayers. He gives you the answer you need, not necessarily the answer you wish for.
That's right, or in the time scale that you wish for.
Or in the, I mean, I must admit, I had a fascinating visit to a lady yesterday.
Yeah.
Who, and the conversation concluded a few days ago. She was in hospital, and the doctors told her she was on palliative care.
Yeah.
And she came home a couple of days ago. And I think the conversation ended up with, and don't forget to thank God for answering your prayers. She got better. Oh, well, weren't the medical people good?
Yeah.
And of course they were. I mean, she sings the praises of the medical people that have treated her and enabled her to get home. Her cancer hasn't gone away.
No.
But she's home, she's fighting fit. And she's got more time with her husband, and they're really pleased and thanking God for it. And actually, when we do get those answers to prayers, I think don't forget to thank God for answering them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, this story that you read moves on a little bit, doesn't it? On to verse 8 and onwards. By faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to set out for a place that he was to receive as an inheritance. And that's very interesting, isn't it? Particularly in light of what's happening in Israel and Gaza today. Because the fundamental people within the Jewish tradition understand 100% that the land which they're fighting and arguing and disputing about now was given to them by God and is theirs, and theirs alone. Which is a very difficult thing to try and square when you try to talk about sharing and peace and etc., isn't it?
It is, but then, I mean, I suppose we don't subscribe to God as a birthright. We subscribe God as God is. We have a God because we love people,
mm-hmm.
And you are God's people if you love your neighbour.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way of conquering that is by loving your neighbour more. And I think that's what we see in our news, and you never know quite what's true because there's so much propaganda around this subject, and it's so emotive. But
there is.
As a Christian point of view, I stand as a Christian peace opposed to killing.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever's doing the killing, must stop, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what we stand and promote, is love your neighbour, love God, love your neighbour. That's the first 2 commandments that we read every week in our services. It's what we're here to do and to follow and believe. And yes, we don't necessarily know who this God is, or we might not, or we might have doubts. But actually, a belief in God and a higher power, whatever we perceive God to be, actually gives us a little bit more responsibility, because it's that thought that we might well be answerable to something else for our actions and what we've done. So it gives us a guide of love to treat other people. It gives us a guide of how we live our life, because that's not just the best way to live, but it helps us to be more focused on, by faith Abraham, by faith, who else was it? By faith when he was too old, had children.
That's right.
People died in faith. I think there was 19 by faith statements in that passage.
That's right.
Of all the things that happen. And, we go ahead and do things by faith because we want to fulfill God's kingdom. And fulfilling God's kingdom is fulfilling God's love in this world.
So as it says at the very end of that passage that you read for us, Chris, that the ultimate aim is that we all, I can presume, desire a better country that is a heavenly one. This place is something in the future when our earthly days come to an end, that part of this eternity that we live in. And I think a lot of people forget that eternity isn't something we're aiming for in the future. Eternity is what we've lived ever since the moment we were conceived, if not before, some would argue, of course, because God knows us and knew what our future and life was to be. But certainly we live in eternity throughout. So this idea of a better country is just another staging post along this line of eternity. Would you support that? Or?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think the posh phrase you learn at certain theological educational institutes is all about the now and the not yet.
Yeah.
And so therefore we are trying to bring, I'll quote a Belinda Carlisle's song, heaven is a place on earth.
Yes.
And, in our love, that's what we're here to do. I often refer to, and I did it last Saturday in the wedding I took last Saturday.
Yeah.
The second sentence I ever utter in every wedding is God is love. Those who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. It's
absolutely.
So God there, the definition of God in that instance is love.
Mm-hmm.
So if we ever do anything that doesn't love our neighbours, then we're not living God's existence.
Yeah.
And that needs to be our motivational factor in everything we do.
Most certainly does. Most certainly does. And so perhaps that's a good place to end almost, Chris, on the fact that everything we do is to be done through the love of God and with God's love, and we need to live in Him as well.
Yes, I think that's a suitable conclusion. And hopefully this might mean Bishop Karen might actually watch, because we haven't gone on too long.
Well, you'll be able to tell us exactly how long, because it'll show on the screen somewhere.
It doesn't show on the screen.
It doesn't, Chris. Oh, there we are. So that's what I'm going to blame for too much talk in the past, because we thought you was only 5 minutes, didn't we?
Oh, it was 4.5, yeah.
4.5, exactly. Exactly. So there we are, dear viewer. Who do I turn to in faith if I have a technical problem? It has to be Harry, because he seems to be the absolute expert in everything. But then, as somebody once said to me, you only have to know one thing more than the person who's asking you, and you become an expert, don't you?
Yeah, and you only need to know it 5 minutes before everybody else.
That's true.
Trust me, I've been a design engineer.
You have. Well, Harry is an expert. I'm very grateful, because in the Beaminster team we couldn't do without his expertise in a lot of things. So there we are.
Yeah, and I'm sure he won't cut that bit out, will he?
No, I don't know. But perhaps this week's road chat will be called Harry is an expert. That could be the one, couldn't it? At long last, he can take full credit for what we do. So there we are. So dear viewer, good to be here again. Any thoughts on what we've said? What do you believe about God? Do you believe about eternity? How do you understand faith and what faith is all about? We just not so much ramble on. We just try to give you some ideas and thoughts so that you can think about them and develop them further for yourself. And we hope that you do so. So drop us a line as ever. We always look forward to hearing from you. And back again next week, Chris. Are you around?
Yes, and then was it the week after is Melplash show, isn't it?
It is. It is. We could do something on the Wednesday afternoon whilst putting the tent, or the Tuesday afternoon, couldn't we? Record
Maybe,
early. Yeah. We could show the dear viewer the fun of putting the tent up for the Melplash show. That could be interesting.
What is this to prove that actually there are occasions when we leave our studies?
It's. I tell you what, dear viewer, putting the gazebo is all done by faith and hope. I tell you.
I would disagree with that.
You would, Chris. You're an engineer, though, Chris. You see, you're an engineer. I just stick a sticking plaster or give an injection in my former life. I didn't hope for the best. See, this is the difference. Your confidence in your ability far outweighs my confidence in the knowledge of my ability. So okay. Yeah, that's got just it. I know how bad I am. I know how bad I am, Chris.
I know a few things that I know how to do.
Yes, that's okay.
And then there's an awful lot of things I have no idea in.
Exactly.
Like sticking in injections and sticking plasters. That's not me.
Yeah, well, sticking plasters are fairly easy. Injections, once you've been it's about training, isn't it? Once you've been told where to put it and where not to put it, as long as you put it in that place, you should be safe. As long as you got the right amount in the tube in the first place. But all things.
You see, you're already talking a foreign language.
All things to each person. And my grandfather was a carpenter. He had his own business. He made pavilions and all kinds of stuff. And my mother used to say, when she saw me trying to knock a nail in, she said, "Your grandfather would turn in his grave and watching you," she used to say.
Do you know what? I watched a podcast of Dr. Peter Nardone yesterday.
I've got it to watch, yes.
And he actually said he got sent to choral school because his organ playing was only average.
Only average, I know. I do remind him of that occasionally. It's only average,
Although, dear viewer, or dear Peter, I don't think your playing is only merely average at all.
Well, it's all relative, isn't it? Within the world of organists, he may know more than we know, but within what we understand about organists, he's supreme champion of the world.
Indeed.
There we are. Anyway, dear viewer, we'll let you go before you get bored of our rabbiting on, and we'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye, everybody.